What happens when a global movie star walks onto a daytime talk show expecting a light conversation about his latest project, and instead finds himself in the middle of a sharp political crossfire? Make sure to subscribe to Final Take Files, and like and comment for more talk show coverage. Alyssa, so Henry, welcome. It's good to have you here. Henry, thank you for having me. It's lovely to be here. Alyssa, you've been everywhere lately. New projects, interviews, headlines. But I want to start with something that's been circulating online. You've spoken in the past about traditional masculinity and how it's sometimes misunderstood. That comment sparked a lot of reaction. What did you mean by that? Henry, I meant exactly what I said at the time, that masculinity, like femininity, can exist in many forms. I think the internet tends to grab a phrase and run with it. Alyssa, sure, but when you say traditional masculinity, some people hear resistance to cultural change. They hear a pushback against progress. Henry, I think that says more about what people project onto the phrase than what I actually said. I was talking about responsibility, about accountability, about showing up for people in your life. Alyssa, but you understand the timing, right? We're in a cultural moment where conversations about gender roles are very sensitive. Henry, of course. And I respect that. But respecting sensitivity doesn't mean abandoning nuance. Audience murmurs softly. Alyssa, nuance is fair. But critics would say celebrities have influence. When you use certain language, it empowers certain groups. Henry, I find that argument interesting. Because if I talk about discipline, honor, protecting those you love, are those suddenly controversial ideas? Alyssa, it depends who's using them and in what context. Henry, I use them in the context of personal character, not politics. Alyssa, but everything is political now, Henry. Henry, that's exactly the problem. Audience reacts, a few claps, a few surprised laughs. Alyssa, you don't think public figures have a responsibility to be more precise? Henry, I think public figures have a responsibility to be honest. If we start tailoring every word out of fear of how it might be twisted, we stop having real conversations. Alyssa, some would argue that's easy to say when you're not part of a marginalized group. Henry, and some would argue that assuming my experience is simple because of how I look is also a form of generalization. Audience, oh. Alyssa, I'm not generalizing. I'm pointing out structural realities. Henry, and I'm pointing out that reducing people to structures instead of individuals doesn't move us forward. Alyssa, so you reject the idea that language shapes culture? Henry, not at all. Language absolutely shapes culture. But culture also shapes language. It's a two-way street. Alyssa, let me push a little more. When young men hear you talk about traditional values, what do you hope they take from that? Henry, I hope they take self-respect. I hope they take the idea that strength isn't about dominance, it's about restraint. That being capable of violence doesn't mean seeking it. That protecting someone doesn't mean controlling them. Alyssa, but historically, those ideas have been used to justify control. Henry, historically, many good ideas have been twisted by bad actors. That doesn't make the core idea bad. Alyssa, you're drawing a fine line there. Henry, life is fine lines. Audience applause. Alyssa, let me ask you this directly. Do you consider yourself a feminist? Henry, I consider myself someone who believes in equal opportunity and respect. If that fits your definition, then yes. Alyssa, that was very diplomatic. Henry, it wasn't diplomatic. It was honest. Alyssa, some critics say you avoid taking strong public stances on social issues. Is that intentional? Henry, yes. Alyssa, why? Henry, because I'm an actor. My job is to tell stories. I vote. I have private conversations. But I don't believe every belief needs a press conference. Alyssa, but you're not just an actor. You're a cultural figure. Henry, that's something other people decided. I didn't wake up one day and appoint myself cultural spokesman. Audience laughter. Alyssa, so when fans look to you for guidance. Henry, I hope they look to their families first. Their mentors. They're communities. Not an actor in a suit on a couch. Alyssa, that almost sounds like you're downplaying your influence. Henry, I'm contextualizing it. Alyssa, do you worry that staying neutral can be interpreted as indifference? Henry, neutrality and indifference aren't the same. Refusing to shout doesn't mean you don't care. A brief pause. The tension is noticeable. Alyssa, I think some viewers might feel that in today's climate, silence benefits the status quo. Henry, and some viewers might feel that constant outrage benefits no one. Audience applause grows louder. Alyssa, so you think outrage culture is the issue? Henry, I think reaction without reflection is the issue. Alyssa, you're very calm about this. Henry, should I not be? Alyssa, well, you're being challenged. Henry, that's fine. Challenge is healthy. I just don't see the need to be combative. Alyssa, no one's being combative. Henry, good. Then we're having a productive conversation. Audience chuckles. Alyssa, let's pivot slightly. You've played characters who embody traditional heroism, strength, sacrifice, leadership. Do you think Hollywood is moving away from that archetype? Henry, I think Hollywood is expanding its archetypes. And that's good. There's room for many kinds of heroes. Alyssa, including the old-fashioned ones? Henry, especially the old-fashioned ones. They remind us of certain timeless values. Alyssa, but who defines timeless? Henry, human nature does. Alyssa, that's a big statement. Henry, it is. But courage, loyalty, responsibility, those aren't trends. They've mattered across centuries. Alyssa, some would say empathy and vulnerability matter more now. Henry, they've always mattered. Strength without empathy is tyranny. Empathy without strength is fragility. Balance is the key. Audience applause, louder this time. Alyssa, so you see yourself as a voice for balance? Henry, no. I see myself as someone answering your questions honestly. Alyssa, fair enough. Let me ask one last thing before we go to break. Do you think Hollywood pressures men to apologize for masculinity? Henry, I think Hollywood sometimes struggles with extremes. It swings from one narrative to another. But real life isn't extreme. Most men I know are trying their best. Most women I know are too. Framing it as a battle doesn't help anyone. Alyssa, so no battle? Henry, not from me. Audience applause as the music begins to cue. Alyssa, all right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about your upcoming projects, and maybe lighten things up a little. Henry, that sounds wonderful. Audience laughs as the camera pulls back slightly, the tension still lingering in the air as the show cuts to commercial. Alyssa, welcome back. Before the break, things got a little intense. Henry, a little. Audience laughs. Alyssa, the internet is already reacting. A lot of viewers are saying you're avoiding taking a clear side. Henry, I don't see it as avoiding. I see it as refusing to oversimplify. Alyssa, but when you talk about traditional values, people hear a political message. Henry, that's their interpretation. To me, it means integrity, responsibility, restraint. Alyssa, you understand why some women might feel uneasy hearing that from a powerful male actor. Henry, I understand the concern. I just don't think strength and respect are threats. Audience murmurs, light applause. Alyssa, do you believe systemic sexism still exists? Henry, yes. Alyssa, and men benefit from it? Henry, in certain ways, yes. Alyssa, then why not say that more publicly? Henry, because repeating slogans isn't the same as creating change. Real change happens beyond interviews. Alyssa, some would say that's convenient. Henry, or realistic. Audience reacts, a few claps. Alyssa, do you think masculinity is under attack? Henry, no. I think society is redefining things. That's not an attack, it's evolution. Alyssa, but there are online groups using your words to push extreme views. Henry, I can't control who misuses my words. I can only control what I actually say. Alyssa, and what you're saying is... Henry, strength without empathy is dangerous. Empathy without strength is fragile. Balance matters. Audience applause. Alyssa, you're very calm under pressure. Henry, I don't feel pressured. You're asking questions. I'm answering them. Alyssa, fair. Let me ask directly, do you consider yourself a feminist? Henry, I believe in equal opportunity and respect. Labels are secondary to behavior. Alyssa, that's not exactly a headline-ready answer. Henry, I'm not here to write headlines. Audience laughter. Alyssa, so you don't feel responsible for shaping cultural debates? Henry, I feel responsible for my conduct. Cultural debates are bigger than any one actor. Alyssa, some viewers think staying neutral benefits the status quo. Henry, staying thoughtful isn't the same as staying neutral. Audience applause. Alyssa, all right. Quick answer, what advice would you give young men watching? Henry, build competence. Show respect. Listen more than you speak. And don't let social media define you. Audience claps louder. Alyssa, okay. We're going to take a quick pause. When we come back, we'll talk about how fan culture and social media amplify moments like this. Stay with us. Music plays as the audience continues buzzing. Alyssa, welcome back. So Henry, during the break our producers were showing me some of the live comments coming in. A lot of support for you, but also a lot of frustration. Henry, that sounds about right. Audience laughs softly. Alyssa, some viewers feel like you're being intentionally careful, almost too careful. Henry, careful isn't a bad thing. Alyssa, not necessarily. But in today's climate, people want clarity. They want strong positions. Henry, strong positions are easy on social media. They're harder in real life. Alyssa, so you think people oversimplify online? Henry, I think platforms reward certainty, not nuance. Audience murmurs in agreement. Alyssa, but you're not on social media much yourself. Is that deliberate? Henry, very. I've seen how quickly things spiral. A 10-second clip becomes a narrative. Alyssa, like today? Henry, possibly. Audience chuckles. Alyssa, let's talk about fan culture. You have a very passionate fan base. Some of them defend you aggressively online. Henry, I've noticed. Alyssa, does that concern you? Henry, I appreciate support. I don't appreciate hostility in my name. Alyssa, but when fans see you challenged like this, they feel protective. Henry, I don't need protection from questions. Audience applause. Alyssa, you don't feel attacked? Henry, no. Challenging questions aren't attacks. They're part of discussion. Alyssa, there are clips circulating already with captions saying you're schooling me. Audience reacts, a mix of laughs and gasps. Henry, I'm not trying to school anyone. Alyssa, but you can see how it might look like that. Henry, I'm answering calmly. If calm answers look like schooling, that says something about how heated we've become as a culture. Audience applause grows louder. Alyssa, that's an interesting point. Henry, we've gotten used to shouting. So when someone doesn't shout, it feels unusual. Alyssa, or it feels strategic. Henry, it's not strategy. It's temperament. Alyssa, do you think Hollywood punishes people for not aligning loudly enough? Henry, I think Hollywood is a reflection of society. There's pressure everywhere, not just in this industry. Alyssa, have you ever lost a role because of how people perceived your views? Henry, I've lost roles. I don't always know why. That's the nature of the business. Alyssa, that sounds diplomatic again. Henry, it's practical. Speculating publicly helps no one. Audience murmurs. Alyssa, you mentioned earlier that celebrity activism can be performative. That struck a nerve online. Henry, I said some of it can be. Not all. Alyssa, how can you tell the difference? Henry, when someone continues the work off camera. When it's consistent, not trending. Alyssa, And you believe you do that? Henry, I try to live my values privately. I donate. I volunteer quietly. I don't publicize everything. Alyssa, some would argue visibility inspires others. Henry, sometimes. Other times it turns compassion into branding. Audience applause. Alyssa, so you're wary of branding activism. Henry, I'm wary of anything becoming a performance instead of a principle. Alyssa, let me challenge you on something else. When you say masculinity isn't the problem, critics hear dismissal of lived experiences. Henry, I'm not dismissing experiences. I'm rejecting the idea that an entire trait is inherently negative. Alyssa, but if certain traits have historically caused harm. Henry, then we address the harm. We don't condemn the trait universally. Audience claps. Alyssa, you're very firm on that. Henry, because broad condemnation breeds resentment. And resentment breeds more division. Alyssa, do you think shows like this contribute to division? Henry, I think shows like this can either inflame or illuminate. It depends on how we handle disagreement. Audience reacts, a mix of applause and thoughtful silence. Alyssa, are we inflaming or illuminating? Henry, I think we're having a real conversation. That's valuable. Alyssa, even if it's uncomfortable? Henry, especially if it's uncomfortable. Audience applause. Alyssa, there's a comment here that says, why won't he just pick a side? Henry, because life isn't always two sides. Alyssa, that frustrates people. Henry, I know. Certainty feels safer than complexity. Alyssa, so what's your side? Henry, my side is respect. For men. For women. For people figuring themselves out. Alyssa, that sounds idealistic. Henry, maybe. But cynicism hasn't solved much either. Audience applause grows. Alyssa, I'll admit, you're not reacting the way some people might expect. Henry, what were they expecting? Alyssa, defensiveness. Anger. Maybe a viral moment. Henry, calm doesn't go viral as easily. Audience laughs. Alyssa, you might be surprised. Henry, if this goes viral, I hope it's for the right reasons. Alyssa, and what would that be? Henry, that two people can disagree without dehumanizing each other. Audience applause, louder and more sustained. Alyssa, that's a fair point. Henry, I don't think humiliation should be entertainment. Audience goes quiet for a second. Alyssa, are you implying that's what this is? Henry, no. I'm saying sometimes media frames it that way. Who won? Who lost? That mindset turns conversation into competition. Alyssa, so there's no winner here? Henry, if we both leave understanding each other better, that's a win. Audience applause builds again. Alyssa, all right. When we come back, I want to talk about how this kind of tension affects careers, and whether you think being outspoken, or not outspoken enough, changes the trajectory of actors today. Stay with us. The music rises as the audience continues clapping, the energy intense but controlled, the debate still hanging in the air as the show heads to break. Alyssa, welcome back. This has definitely been one of the more intense conversations we've had in a while. Henry, intense isn't always bad. Audience applauds lightly. Alyssa, no, it's not. And to your credit, you've stayed very steady through all of it. Henry, I don't see a reason not to. Alyssa, I want to talk about aftermath, because whether we like it or not, moments like this don't end when the cameras stop. Henry, that's true. Alyssa, our team has been tracking social media during the breaks. There are already clips titled, Henry shuts down Alyssa, and others saying, Alyssa presses Henry on privilege. It's split. Audience murmurs. Henry, that's predictable. Alyssa, does it bother you when the narrative becomes who won? Henry, yes. Because that assumes someone had to lose. Alyssa, some viewers think you embarrassed me. Audience reacts with a mix of laughter and surprise. Henry, that wasn't my intention. I answered your questions. You asked them directly. That's not embarrassment, that's dialogue. Alyssa, I appreciate you saying that. Henry, I respect what you do. Tough questions are part of it. Alyssa, I will say, you pushed back more than some guests do. Henry, if I disagree, I'll say so. Politely. Audience applause. Alyssa, there's also a wave of support saying you handled this with composure and that it's refreshing to see disagreement without shouting. Henry, that's encouraging. Alyssa, but there's criticism too. Some feel you avoided fully aligning with progressive causes. Henry, people are free to feel that way. Alyssa, and that won't push you to be louder politically? Henry, no. I don't make decisions based on trending reactions. Alyssa, even if it affects your career? Henry, careers built on reaction tend to crumble with reaction. Audience claps louder. Alyssa, that's a strong statement. Henry, it's just observation. Alyssa, let me ask something personal. After an appearance like this, do you go home and replay it? Henry, of course. I'm human. I'll think about what I said, what I could have phrased better. Alyssa, so you do self-reflect. Henry, always. Alyssa, anything you'd change today? Henry, maybe I'd emphasize even more clearly that respect goes both ways. I never want my defense of masculinity to be heard as dismissal of women's experiences. Audience applauds. Alyssa, I think some viewers needed to hear that sentence. Henry, then I'm glad I said it. Alyssa, there's a comment here that says, this is how debates should be. That surprised me. Henry, why? Alyssa, because tension usually equals shouting online. Today felt tense, but not hostile. Henry, that's the goal. Discomfort without disrespect. Audience applause grows. Alyssa, I'll be honest, when we started this segment, I expected sharper edges. Henry, I think sharp edges come from assuming bad intent. Alyssa, and you didn't assume that? Henry, no. I assumed you were doing your job. Alyssa, I was. Audience laughs softly. Alyssa, final question before we wrap. If a young viewer watches this and feels confused about where they stand, what would you tell them tonight? Henry, I'd tell them it's okay to take time forming your views. Don't let a clip of me or anyone else decide your identity. Talk to people in your real life. Listen deeply. And treat those who disagree with dignity. Audience applauds, longer this time. Alyssa, that's a measured answer. Henry, it's an honest one. Alyssa, well, whether people agree with you or not, this conversation is going to continue online long after we're done here. Henry, I have no doubt. Alyssa, for what it's worth, I appreciate you engaging directly. Henry, thank you for challenging me directly. Audience applause builds. Alyssa, all right, that's all the time we have today. Clearly, this discussion struck a nerve, in the studio and at home. Social media is already divided, with some calling this a masterclass in composure and others saying the debate isn't finished. And maybe that's the point. Conversations like this aren't supposed to end neatly. Henry, probably not. Alyssa, thank you for being here. Henry, thank you for having me. Audience stands, applauding as the music swells. Alyssa, and to everyone watching, we want to hear from you. Was this a productive debate? Did either of us change your mind? Let us know. The cameras pull back as the audience continues buzzing, some still discussing quietly among themselves, others already on their phones reacting in real time. Clips begin circulating within minutes. Supporters praise Henry's calm pushback. Critics argue he sidestepped clearer commitments. Media blogs start posting headlines framing it as a showdown. By the end of the afternoon, it's trending, not because of shouting, but because of restraint. And as always, these moments don't just live on television. They live in comment sections, group chats, reaction videos, and follow-up segments. Share your opinion in the comments and subscribe to Final Take Files for more real talk show stories.